I don't know. I don't know if I have. Have I got time for that? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if the time is worth it, but you know what time is always worth it?
What's that?
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to PixelLit. My name is Kevin. Alongside, as always, is Phil.
Hello.
I think I see a kitty in the background.
Yeah, there's Ripley.
Oh, Ripley. And today we're doing episode 2 on Halo the Flood by New York Times bestselling author William C. Dietz.
William Dietz. He's got the deets.
Billy
You're looking
Dietz.
You're looking to understand this? He's got the deets.
And when we last left off, we were on chapter 3, which is kind of like the midpoint of part 1 of the book. And this is a book that is, as we talked about last time, it's a lot of action sequences, but it's also a book of long chapters.
Long, very long chapters. I think you pointed out earlier that chapter 4 and 5 between the two of them were like 100 pages.
Yeah.
And this is a what? Let me check real quick. This is not even a 400-page book. So Jesus, right there.
And it's a lot of action. There's even less. Yeah. That's the thing about the upcoming chapters is that I think there's even less character moments up through chapter 5, which is where we're gonna go today, than there were in the first couple of chapters. It's a lot of heavy running and gunning.
Even more so than that was something we talked about with the Fall of Reach, where it had lots of moments packed into it that were just action sequences and stuff. This is even more than Fall of Reach. This is a very clearly based on a video game kind of thing,
right?
And not just in the sense that, for those of you who listened to our Mega Man 2 novelization episode from a couple of weeks ago, you'll remember that we talked a lot about how in that book it felt like the author was just sitting there watching someone play through the game. This is not that bad. I want to get right up front. Get right in front of this.
This is not Mega Man 2. This is not Mega Man 2 tier. No.
Absolutely.
If we're doing
William
a tier list, it's not
does
that.
A far better job. But there's definitely an element of that. But the difference is, I will say, I think the difference is that Dietz, unlike our author for Mega Man 2, I forget her name already. Is it Elaine? I forget.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
FX9 outlines.
Well, FX9's Mega Man 2, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah. Instead of just leaving it as it is and just doing beat to beat, moment to moment, William Dietz recognizes a lot of things. Like, for example, maybe we don't want the entire book to be from Master Chief's point of view, and we've already started to see things like that, where we're getting stuff from the position of the Hell Jumpers, we're getting stuff from the position of the Covenant, and it fleshes it out a little bit, and it makes it more than just a retelling of the first Halo Combat Evolved. So, and we're going to get into all that, but yeah, right up front, we're dealing with a lot of just action sequences here.
Yeah, right up front. So the beginning of chapter 3 is basically Master Chief has teamed up. He runs into a couple of other Marines, and they're kind of fighting their way through. And I believe he's on a Warthog for part of this.
They deploy a Warthog for it. It starts to feel like we need to get the toys out there. You know what I mean? Like, we get a Warthog in there. We just like it's we get a little more. We get information. We get the weapons porn. We got the all-terrain vehicle is mounted with a standard M41 light anti-aircraft gun, or LAAG, or LAG, I guess. The weapon fired 500 rounds of 12.7 by 99 millimeter armor-piercing rounds per minute, and it was effective on both ground and airborne targets. Oh, do you need a minute to clean off all the ejaculate from your hands? After that level of weapon pornography, I don't blame you. Like we get a lot of that, which is a nice little throwback to how the first one was.
Yeah. So Foehammer drops off the Warthog, and it's like, one Warthog deployed, saddle up and give him hell. And some of the lines of dialogue feel like the barks that you get in a game like Halo. And it's not a criticism. It's more of like a neutral observation. It's where it's just like, oh yeah, so-and-so said, hey, Master Chief, so-and-so said you could use a gunner. And like, little things like that where it feels like, oh, I feel like I heard that line.
There are definitely some lines in this that are taken directly from the game. And we'll get to one in particular that always stuck out in my head. But we do have, I think, this is not the kind of franchise that you expect to have a lot of winks to the audience, because it takes itself very seriously.
Right.
But we do have one at a certain point in this chapter where they get on the Warthog and Cortana says, I put a nav indicator on your HUD. Just follow the arrow. Figures, the Spartan said, a hint of amusement in his level voice. You're always a backseat driver. It's the actual HUD from the game. Like you have a map and an arrow pointing. Like it's breadcrumbs. Like it's an actual game.
And they also mention that his HUD, his helmet readout, identifies the Marines as they're approaching, so that he sees like a little name tag above.
Right. Right.
Which is like basically how you can see whenever you see the other Marines in the game, they're identified with a little name tag. So
right. Yeah. And I think that's the only real example of something like that we see, but it's fun.
This actually might be one of my favorite moments in the book so far, coming up next.
Oh, yeah, this is a good moment.
This is a very cool moment. So Keyes and his command crew are basically trudging through the desert, or it's not a desert, but, metaphorically, they're trudging through the desert.
Yeah, metaphorically. 40 days and 40 nights. 40 days and 40 nights.
They're trying to get away from the Covenant. And basically, one of his ensigns starts giving him a little attitude.
Yeah, giving him some lip.
I believe it was Ensign
Dowski.
Ensign Dowski.
Yeah.
And I believe Ensign Dowski's a she.
Yes. She's basically like arguing that
they know where we are, and Keyes is like, they know where we are, sir. And he's like demanding the protocol.
Right. Which is great. And she's basically saying, like, we're all going to die.
Yeah.
Let's just allow ourselves to be taken prisoner.
Game over.
Oh, that's exactly where she's at. She is just like, you stow that shit, Hudson. Like, she is just not interested. She wants to give up.
Right.
And they point out to her, motherfucker, the Covenant doesn't take prisoners. They never have.
Right.
Like, what do you? And she's really insistent and says, no, this is going to be different. That I don't know I don't remember if they give her like a reason for thinking that they'll be special. Like, I think she might just not believe. Like, she just thinks that the idea that the Covenant doesn't take prisoners is just a rumor.
Yeah. She just thinks that she's. If they'll be nice to us if we give up easily.
Right.
What they end up doing is they basically tie her up. They take her gun, they tie her up, and they put some battle dressing in her mouth and just leave her there and continue on.
Yeah. It's like, if you want to be captured so bad, and it's kind of hilarious because she's horrified. She's like, you're just going to leave me alone? It's like, well, hey, you're the one who wanted to give up, so we're going to let you do that. But you're not going to give away our position for a little while at very least. So yeah, they move on, and you are led to believe that this is a wrap on Dowski, but
no, it is not. We're back briefly with the Covenant.
Yes,
where basically one of the elites finds the life raft and finds Nosoli's body and is basically why would the Asuna risk his life, and starts putting together that this is the only reason that the Asuna would have risked his life is because there was somebody really important.
Right.
And then they find Dowski, who had just managed to wrestle free of her bindings, and then the Covenant shows up,
just surrounds her.
Yeah, and then then they pause we're going to pause on them for a little bit because we're back with some action sequences with the Helljumpers again.
Absolutely. They're moving their way up to take the position on the butte. Still, I think one of the standout moments that I really enjoy here is we get more Wellesley commentary. It says, please return to waypoint 25 for another load of troopers. And if you're going to insist on poetry, because the pilot says we are green, clean, and extremely mean, if you insist on poetry, try some Kipling. You might find some of it rather instructive. Over and out. And we get Peterson grinned directing a one-fingered salute in the general direction of Battalion HQ, which, yeah, I've absolutely heard that expression used before. Yeah. If you're raised around enlisted guys, you've heard of the one-fingered salute.
Exactly. And then meanwhile, there's where we get a point of view from Lieutenant Melissa McKay, who is really shaping up to be one of the main characters of the book, it seems.
Very much so, yeah. Surprised me.
Yeah. More fighting.
But yeah. More fighting. We're making our way up. And let me see.
This is when they find they find something underneath the grounds. It's like a lift, basically.
Yes, a grav lift.
Yeah.
And it's like, and they're pointing out that this is just that this isn't
it's not
everything
Covenant.
That's all the stuff that's set up is not Covenant. It's too old.
Yeah.
It's that kind of, and and for those of you who are keeping score at home, it's a little like Warhammer 40,000.
You know what? It's been a few books. It's been a little bit.
It's been a couple.
It's Bioshock really did not lend itself to Warhammer 40K.
No, it could have.
It could have.
It absolutely could have. If I could have seen through the red curtain of rage that Ayn Rand tends to put me in, I get way less clever when it's like. Other times I can be pithy and that kind of, and clever and that kind of thing. With that, I was like, "Fuck that shit," It's just so with 40K, the idea is that some of the greatest technology is actually ancient technology. It isn't like modern day where the best stuff is present day and you're constantly thinking of future tech and all that stuff. The idea is that we have gone through some sort of dark age at some point, and there's like an Atlantean style technology somewhere behind us. Yeah, exactly.
Ancient astronaut theory, all that type of stuff.
Right. But but way less racist and
racist. Well, it's
far more
40K. I mean, I'm sure it could work that in there.
40K. We don't have time for race. We don't have time to hate races in 40K. We hate everybody. You got more than two legs, you're a dead man, my friend. So they make their way into what they call Alpha Base. Mm-hmm. They take it and they set up shop. So they have established
taken the butte.
Foothold. Yes.
It is now Alpha Base with and Major Silva congratulates McKay, and Major Silva is he's going to be an interesting character coming up because he seems very I don't know, bristly. He's
the Helljumper sections are steadily becoming my favorite. And not necessarily because I like these people.
No, a lot of them seem like dicks, but
they're total dicks.
They're very interesting.
But they're exactly. They are total dicks, but they are interesting. So we've got a gigantic tunnel that Master Chief is making his way through in the Warthog.
He's finding his way through
straight out of the game.
Yep.
You were constantly going in and out of tunnels and that kind of thing.
He's encountering Covenant forces, and he finds, as they go through, they find a light bridge. He activates a light bridge, and Cortana's like, "How did you do that?" And he's like, "I don't know."
I love the light bridge. I love that because I remember, because if you've got, I got a bad thing with heights. I'm not great with heights. But even in a game like a last generation game like Halo, I get nervous in levels where you can roll off a cliff or off the edge of something. Yeah. I have every week at least one nightmare of falling off a cliff or driving my car off a bridge. Like it messes me up. And they actually address that in this section of the book. So they find this light bridge. It takes them a minute to realize this is something that's going to hold us up.
Yep.
And he leads these Marines across the light bridge. And basically you get a lot of great commentary from these people going, fuck this, fuck this, fuck this. Like making their way across and basically just look straight ahead, don't look down.
Yeah,
it's freaking hilarious, and it's really, really good. I love it.
Yeah, so they get across, and now they're back outside. They're back in the world, and they are basically being picked up. Basically, they're being picked up by Foehammer, and she's gonna take them to Alpha Base. The newly established Alpha Base. Meanwhile, Mr. Keyes, Captain Keyes is this such a shame. And you know what's funny is I actually was like, aw, when we lost a bunch of his command crew, because they were such well-developed characters in Fall of Reach, and then you get to this part of Chapter 3. And they get summarily executed in like the blink of an eye.
I found that very frustrating.
Yeah.
I thought that was like, so Keyes basically, they're trying to make their way up the canyon. It's a box canyon, which means without some serious equipment, you ain't climbing that cliff face. So they're kind of stuck, and Dowski shows up with the Covenant in tow, looking very smug.
Yeah.
And basically saying, see,
I told you so.
I told you so. They kept me prisoner. So, and then basically, the Covenant through a translator, they clearly have been talking to her, and she has said that I'm working for this important captain.
Yeah.
And they say, which one? She kisses him on the cheek. No, that doesn't happen. But she points out Keyes, and the moment she points out Keyes, Covenant goes, "Great, thanks, babe," and shoots everybody else. Everybody else goes down in a matter of paragraphs.
Yeah, in the matter of paragraphs, Hikawa attempts to attack Dowski and immediately gets shot in the head.
Give her a posthumous Purple Heart. Like, goes down trying to kill Dowski like a badass.
Yeah.
Good for that's great. And then Dowski has a final moment of like, wait, what? And then just gets shot in the head.
What? You told me they would just take them prisoner. And then Dowski is her head explodes.
Yeah, funny that. So they just kill Dowski. And that's it.
The elite kills her using it's like Keyes' pistol or something like that. The elite picks up the gun, shoots Dowski in the head, and is like admiring the pistol afterwards.
Right. Points out how primitive it is
compared to his gun, and it's so tiny.
Yeah, they don't use slug throwers. They use beam weapons and that sort of thing. So the fact that it's a projectile kind of gun is primitive to them.
Very primitive.
And very primitive. And now Keyes is officially
captured, which is something something that happens off screen in the game.
Yes,
this is all added.
And this is a perfect example of like moments where, it isn't something, we could have just gone through it like the game and you find out later, but that's not enough for Dietz as it shouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly.
And Dietz gave it some flavor, gave us a little drama.
I think,
even if it only is contained in the one chapter.
I think it's anytime you can add stuff besides Master Chief, it's a win, because I was listening to the Super Beard Bros, and they were playing through the first Halo game, and Brett Bayonne was talking about how like Master Chief really isn't a character. He's like he's an avatar for the player. He's not
right.
He doesn't really have he doesn't have enough behind him to be a real character. He doesn't he's not necessarily growing and changing. Now in later games he might be. I'm not the biggest in Halo lore, but especially in this first game, he's just Master Chief.
Oh. Yeah, Master Chief develops a little bit over time, from what I've seen, but it isn't much more than what we have gotten in these books so far. We are not going to, at least so far, the point of view when it is Master Chief, and I think I pointed this out last time, it isn't too deep. Master Chief isn't doing a ton of introspection, and Master Chief very kind of handily settles into that like badass avatar kind of character. And we do get moments here and there, and we're actually going to get a little bit coming up here, but for the most part, Master Chief isn't, we've backed off a little bit from Master Chief. Like with the last book, there was a lot of Captain America-esque, like, Jean Valjean, who am I kind of shit. Yeah, and
one more day. One day.
Yeah, more. Exactly. And we're not going into that all that much here. And I'm not sure yet if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we're probably going to continue reading Halo books over the life of this podcast.
Absolutely,
and I'm sure we'll find out more. And honestly, I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if there's Halo books that just don't have Master Chief in them at all. And I would.
Well, I mean, there's a Halo game that doesn't have Master Chief in it.
That's true.
Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's going to vary from author to author, frankly. So that's going to be.
I think Dietz is on a few of these, and then what's his name? The guy we liked from the first one, Eric Nyland.
Yeah,
is in. Actually, it only looks like Dietz from this copy. It only looks like Dietz wrote this one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. All right. Anyway. So, where was it? Where's the page? Oh, here we go. Yes. Master Chief is at Alpha Base. He's out of his armor at the moment, because they like taking him out of his armor for some reason.
I think they wanted to make him feel vulnerable.
Yeah, especially in this scene.
Yeah, he's called by Major Silva to come and see him, and they make a point of saying, "Leave your armor off."
Yeah,
and
because he was just getting cleaned up, basically.
Right. He's taking a shower. He's getting cleaned up, and as things progress with Silva, I think we kind of start to see why. They wanted him to have his armor off, because Silva just dresses him the fuck
He
down.
thinks Master Chief is just a freak and just a remnant from a failed project. And he's like, he's basically, and it's true, so far in the book, he's like, you see everything that's happened here so far? This was done by the Marines. This was done by Marines. This was not done. You didn't do any of this. We established Alpha Base. We fought off the Covenant. And like, he's literally right in this moment. It's like Master Chief hasn't really done a whole lot yet.
Right. And he says whoever wins this when we win this war, it'll be won by the Marines and not by some pet project.
Right.
And that's a pretty good message.
Sure.
It's a shame it doesn't turn out to be true, at least based on the games. But it, like, by itself, I think it's a good message in terms of, like, all of these people are coming out here to risk their lives and fight and die. That those people are this whole bullshit one man army kind of thing is such a romantic notion. That all the wrong people fall in love with, and so it's kind of hilarious that a Marine is the one dressing him down, telling him, well, it's not hilarious. It makes sense because Marines know about working in teams.
Exactly.
They know about running off and being a hero is going to get you shot.
Right.
It's going to get you killed. It's just like when we were in Savannah, and I was at the bar most nights. And you may recall there was a nearby base where they trained Rangers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we got Rangers in my bar all the time. And there were two different kinds of Rangers. There were the Rangers that hadn't been overseas yet. And they were pricks. And they were like real in love with the idea of I'm a fucking Ranger.
Yeah.
And they started fights and they harassed, our waitresses. And they were dickweeds.
Yeah.
And then there were the Rangers who had been overseas, and they were the nicest guys in the fucking world. They'd help you clean. They always tipped well. Like, I remember, like, we were putting on this bar I worked at, I was putting up chairs and tables and stuff. And this young man is like, just like helping me out and helping stack chairs and stuff. And I went, who are you? And it turns out he was just a Ranger, and he just saw someone who needed a hand. I was like, dude, you're really sweet. We're closing. You have to get the fuck out of here. And that's the difference. It's like, so it I started to say it was funny, but it actually makes perfect sense. And it's a good message. And to Master Chief's credit, outside of the whole "you're a freak" thing, he takes it pretty well.
He does. And he doesn't like let Silva see him bristle too much. And he just says, yes, sir. He's respects the chain of command. He respects all that stuff, which is all he's ever been trained to do. And at the end of the scene, it's confirmed that Captain Keyes has been taken prisoner. And we get a nice we get a scene change. Zamami.
Zamami. Zuka
Zamami. And with his good buddy, YAYAP.
His new assistant,
YAYAP lives.
YAYAP lives.
He's basically he's going in front of the council that is on the ship to be like, hey, I would like to take a very specific mission to go kill Master Chief. And at this point, the council is like, no, thank you. Like, you're better.
Completely
they shut him
unimpressed.
down. It's longer than that. It's a lot of like back and forth. But basically, the long story short, they're like, they shut him down. And one of Zamami's, was it Rolami, who I think outranks Zamami, comes out and is like, oh, see, sorry. They said you're far too valuable. And Zamami is like, it's like thinking, Rolami added the far too valuable thing.
Right. It's kind of hilarious because you realize that like this Covenant army is just as couched in bureaucracy and bullshit and glad handing and all that shit. They are not above any of that. They just happen to have an upper hand for the time being. That's all. So they're not interested, and they just don't see this. He tells them there's this guy, and here's where I think he went wrong. He says the guy's wearing armor that's superior to our own, and the upper echelon council all goes,
bullshit.
bullshit. That doesn't exist. No one has armor that's better
that's
than
not
ours.
A thing.
That's not a thing. You're dismissed. Yeah. And so they leave, and YAYAP is so relieved. YAYAP is like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Because he was sitting there worried that he was going to, have to follow this guy on his bullshit vengeance quest against this unkillable god. And YAYAP is just like, he is literally the opposite of that. He is just has no interest in that. And while they're leaving, they run into Keys.
Yeah, they see Keys being dragged away into the interrogation chambers. And so Zamami decides to take part briefly. And it's basically just shouting at Keys, where can I find the human who wears the special armor? And then Keys responds, I don't have the foggiest idea, but the next time you run into him, you might want to consider ducking.
Yeah. So he pulls a gun on Keys, and Keys just cold-blooded stares him in the face. Says, yeah, do it. Do it. Come on. I want you to do it. Yeah.
Keys says, you want to get nuts? Come on.
Yeah.
Let's get nuts.
He gets his Michael Keaton on, and it just, that just, so that ends chapter 3.
Yeah. That ends chapter 3. That was a solid 40 pages of a chunk of stuff.
It was a lot.
It's a lot, yeah. So chapter 4.
We end up, and we're talking about, by the way, so they're talking about a covenant vessel, a prominent covenant vessel that's in the atmosphere, and it's called the Truth and Reconciliation,
which sounds super Warhammer 40K, right?
It does, but it also, like, based on who the covenant is, it's like reconciliation is not the word that I expected.
Right.
Like they're the witch hammer. Like this is they're a bunch of religious fanatics, and so reconciliation. There's a certain level of irony with that name. It'll every time they bring it up, it always cracks me up.
Yeah. So Master Chief is taking a moment, and he is thinking about what Silva said in this chapter, and he's like, well, maybe Silva's right. Maybe the Spartan program was a mistake, and it should end with him. That's I think that could be that might not be a bad thing. Right. But meanwhile, he's thinking about this while they are in motion on a plan to get into the Truth and Reconciliation via the gravity lift that is directly below it. And Master Chief and a bunch of Marines and snipers, they engage.
It's time for a sniper mission.
It's time for Snake. This is a sneaking mission.
Right. It actually is more of a XCOM.
Yeah.
You start out in stealth mode kind of thing, and the moment you set off, the alarm bells, you kill someone in front of someone else. Everyone knows how to stealth, and
it's all you've activated all the pods. They're
right.
They all get to move and get into cover before you can even react. Bullshit like that.
So we get a little more weapons.
A little more weapons porn, and just a lot of fighting, just constant fighting. It's several pages upon pages of engagement here. And if you've played the game, this mission, you're literally just fighting through the Covenant at the base of the gravity lift. And there's the shades. At one point, it's kind of neat. Master Chief takes one of the shades, which are their guns, right? The placed guns.
The guns.
And they're like circled around, and Master Chief basically hops in one of them and starts like shooting all of the other gun emplacements.
Yeah. Which if you've played the first Halo game, is really the only way to do it. It is so satisfying. It's a good feeling. And then he runs into his first. I think this is his first hunter. Is this the first?
Which one are the hunters?
They're big nasties.
They're the big nasties.
Big nasties, I believe.
I'm looking up the pictures just so I can. No, I think he had already fought one in the Fall of Reach.
Okay. Well, I think in the game though, this represents the first time you fight.
This is the first time you fight one in the game. Yeah.
Yeah. So you fight one, and those guys are just fucking bullet sponges.
Yeah, and there's always two of them.
And it's always there's always two of them. So
bullshit.
It's bullshit. So we get several pages long, battle scene with a lot of details like that, and we call for reinforcements.
Right.
Let's see, and they're doing well. By the way, they are an important note to take from this fight is they are rocking these people's shit.
They're winning. Much to Major Silva's point, the Marines and Master Chief are winning, and eventually they are able to secure the gravity lift, and they're gonna head up on in it.
Gotta go find keys. Let's see.
There's another chapter with there's a brief section though with McKay before we get into the.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at here. Yeah. We get some really interesting. We get a lot of interesting.
So we cut to McKay, and they're now planning to retake the Pillar of Autumn.
Yes, because it hasn't been completely demolished,
and it has all the gear that they want to use to really fortify Alpha Base. And I'll take a moment to pause right here and. We were talking about this pre-show is that a lot of these scenes start to blend together.
Yes.
And I don't know how much is to blame for the author, but it's just a lot of samey, they're on Halo and there's fighting going on.
Right.
And somehow some of the scenes just end up being like, did this happen in this scene or did this happen in this scene? Yeah.
If you're a Halo expert and we mistakenly say that they're on Halo when you know that they're still on the Butte or something like that, just please forgive us. It really does start to blend a little bit, short of certain details.
Sure. Yeah. And then we're back with the Marines and Master Chief, and they are in the belly of the Truth and Reconciliation. And they, it seems like it's empty, and then somebody accidentally triggers an alarm, and in comes the shit ton of them. And Billy Dietz used my favorite phrase of all time: "Chaos reigned."
Yeah. It was a good choice.
A good choice. All I think of is the fox in.
Antichrist.
Oh
yeah.
/Faith. Yeah. Which is, I mean, it's
shout out to friend of the pod. Oh my god.
Yeah. So they are now fighting their way through, and this is if you listen to the book, the audiobook, you get treated to a few more Mjolnirs.
Like a few more, yeah. I bet you missed those.
And Master Chief just fights his way through. There's no other way to say. He just fights his way through, and you find keys and a bunch of other Marines. Which I don't understand why there is other Marines in the jail cells if the Covenant doesn't take prisoners, and the very specifically keys was out of the ordinary.
Right. I wasn't sure about that either. It's like I don't know. And you can't even call it a translation problem because they can speak English.
Sure.
Like they do it more than once. So I'm not sure. But in the game and in this book, and they don't go into too much detail with it, but there are kind of encampments of Marines all over the place, right. That you're running into from time to time. Just they got thrown off course when they landed or something like that. So yeah, maybe just fight or they have experiments. I don't know.
Maybe they're gonna like vivisect them or something like that. Right. Which is gross, but so, it seems like something the Covenant would do because they'd
give it a shot.
Yeah.
So they find Captain Keyes, and I actually this is tough guy bullshit language, but I liked it. They find him. They're gonna make their way out, and Keyes is like, "Do you know how to find your way out? This place is like a maze." And it shouldn't be too difficult, the Master Chief replied. All we have to do is follow the bodies. It's a very then we will fight in the shade kind of a line. So and let it never be said that I don't have a soft spot in my heart for that kind of bullshit. Tough guy talk.
You just imagine Arnold at his peak should have said something like that in one of his movies.
Yeah. Totally.
We get a little. Basically, we get a little interlude, which I'm not sure I agree with some of this, and I get it's written in a way to make things seem like a lot of things are happening at once, but we cut away from Keyes and Master Chief to.
We get McKay, right?
Well, we get a brief scene with Lieutenant Cookie Peterson.
Right. Oh, Cookie. Yeah, sure.
Which, he was looking at the, put the Echo 136 down, a full click from the Pillar of Autumn, and was basically just waiting.
He's a
pilot. And then we get to McKay. Basically, it was like an attack that they were doing, the Marines are doing, to get the Covenant paying less attention to what's happening on the Truth and Reconciliation. And then.
And basically,
they're basically gonna do their attack on the Pillar of Autumn.
Yeah, McKay is basically...
She's leading the Pillar of Autumn attack.
Yeah, she's determined to get back on the Pillar of Autumn.
So we have that brief little interlude. And so my point was, I know it's done to make it seem like a lot of things are happening at the same time, but it felt weird to cut away at that point from the action in the Truth and Reconciliation to these extra scenes. And then we're back in the Truth and Reconciliation as Covenant troops ran hither and yon. We got a hither and yon sighting in the book.
Right.
And that's kind of my overall critique of the book so far. Is part of it is the sameness, and I think it's not helped by these little vignettes being cut into, especially when it's like these Marines that, okay, they're side characters, secondary characters, some are main characters, but you're not necessarily connected to them in the same way that you're connected to Master Chief.
Right. This Cookie character, for example, as you point, is literally, it's a 2-paragraph segment where basically it's just Cookie saying, Cookie will be waiting with a Pelican to transport Marines back the moment they get off the Truth and Reconciliation. Yeah. That's basically it. It's basically the author saying, okay, so we've got people who are waiting, which we don't need. It feels like kind of a, it's just a weakness of a worthy cause, in the sense that William Dietz is trying to break up the Master Chief standard video game stuff with more
Marine stuff, and I like the Marine stuff, but
me too.
In this instance, it felt a little wonky to kind of jam it in there.
It does get a little clunky sometimes. I think you're right. Because and especially with what we're about to get into, because we just go right back to the Truth and Reconciliation. No time has passed there. And Cortana and Keyes basically confirm that the Halo is a super weapon of some kind.
Keyes has overheard them talking. It's a weapon.
Yeah.
Cortana has hacked into their system, and and the Covenant is pretty sure that Halo is something that needs to be activated. And it's a weapon.
Right. And Keyes actually says, I've got a new mission for you. You got to find out how to get this weapon. And Master Chief, rightfully, I believe, says, well, sir, why don't we finish
let's finish this one
first?
now.
Let's do this one first, and then we'll talk. Which I thought was a nice touch.
they managed to get out, and basically Foehammer, they're talking to Foehammer, like that she's ready to go. And there's another firefight because basically the where they had just killed a bunch of Covenant, there are still a bunch of Covenant, like they're back. They filled in. Yeah,
we get and Foehammer can't make it in right then in that moment. Because of reasons.
She's it's just like the LZ's too hot, basically.
Exactly. LZ's too hot.
They basically carjack a Covenant ship.
They sure do. Which is a really fun moment in the game. They steal a Covenant ship and clear out. They get the hell out of there.
Yeah. And Master Chief's actions on the Truth and Reconciliation in this next scene with Zamimi, whatever, Zuka,
Zamami, yeah, Zuka,
Danny Zuko, and YAYAP,
Danny Zuko, and
Kaneki and Danny Zuko.
Danny Zuko. That's what you know what, guys, from here on out, when we talk about them, just imagine
it's Grease. Grease is the word.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're basically the Covenant and Danny are examining the damage done. Everything's been reinforced now that Master Chief has organized a jailbreak, and basically Zuka's friend Rolamy is like, hey, by the BT dubs, the thing you asked us about that you wanted to do and we told you no, and then he went and he did all this, we're saying yes now.
Yeah, they got a good look at what Master Chief is capable of. The numbers of dead for the Covenant versus the numbers for the
they go
forces.
through all the numbers and it's like, that's impossible. That's like, there was like 12 humans dead and like scores of Covenant soldiers killed.
Right. It was just a bloodbath, and it's deeply embarrassing for them. And so, this council says, that thing you asked for, we changed our mind. And you're actually, it's kind of satisfying. You feel satisfied for him. It's like, good for you.
Yeah, good for you, man. You got it.
We do. They wouldn't listen. It's like you were the scientist in a 90s disaster movie. They weren't listening to you. Good for you.
You know what's funny though is you would think that the Covenant would be a little bit more aware of Master Chief and the Spartans in general, given the way that they're talked about in the previous book, in the Fall of Reach, where there are battles where on the ground, maybe they just didn't care so much because the planets would end up getting glassed anyway.
Not just the Covenant, but the human forces. And I guess I didn't think about it, but most of the fights in Fall of Reach were naval battles. Mm-hmm. We didn't, they didn't have a lot of one-on-one fights with the Covenant. So there is a point that you're kind of like, for example, there's a moment where we see a Needler for the first time, which for those of you who haven't played the game or read the book is a Covenant weapon that fires these like purple crystals and they're devastating.
They blow up and or something like that once they embed into you.
Yeah. It's Quick Man's power. It's a drill bomb. And and everyone's surprised by this weapon, and I found that a little. I was like, this is the first time you guys have. Okay. So yeah, there are things like that feel like they should be kind of more obvious, but I guess it kind of based on the last game, it does, or the last book. I guess most of their experience with them is naval. So that's at least that's my take on it. I know.
I get. Yeah, I mean, I'll go with that. That ends chapter 4 and starts the next section with chapter 5 called Eradication. And this. So even though I've said a lot of the battle sequences feel a little samey, I really loved this one with McKay and her troops and the Pillar of Autumn, because it is such a fun little sniper moment.
It's good writing. It's good action writing. Sniper rifle. It's not as, it's more nuanced than the usual like grunt versus grunt, smash mouth kind of fights that we have been having. Yeah. And so it's very
it's fun. So McKay and her team are up on a ridge, basically overlooking the Pillar of Autumn and all the Covenant forces that are just kind of like are just walking around outside. And she's having this moment where she's wondering about and it gets into the like the tradition of stand to in the morning at a base, and she's wondering whether if the Covenant has something similar, whether these Covenant troops are fatigued or whether they are up and ready to go. And I thought that was a nice touch, a nice little moment of like, how similar to us are they in their battle tactics and all that?
Yeah, they're actually thinking about stuff like that, and it's good writing. It isn't just, well, they've got different ways from us.
They're different ways. Blah, blah, blah.
All right. And they actually go into the way that a well-trained soldier would think about things like this. It's like, have they been up all night? And if they haven't, and if they have been up all night, does it matter? Yeah. What kind of physiology do they have? It's interesting stuff. It's well written.
It's well written. And then she's like, well, either way, let's snipe their heads off. And they proceed to do so.
Lot of time to think about that. I want death. So
they start off, basically they start off shooting rocket launchers at the Banshees to blow up the Banshees. And while the Banshees are flaming wrecks, and everybody is distracted by the fact that their Banshees just blew up in the sky. It's I love this line. If the alien screamed on the way down, McKay wasn't able to hear it, especially with the steady crack, crack, crack of multiple S2 sniper rifles going off around her. So just imagine this scene. It's like there's just this ridge of the Marine snipers, and they're just going.
I love it. Do you know what it made me think of? And this is it's good writing. You're right to point this out. It made me think of when you're playing. Well, bring it up again. If you're playing XCOM and you've got everyone all in the right positions,
you have your snipers on Overwatch.
You've got your snipers. You got all the Overwatches set up, and then you get that one shot off, and everyone starts running in different directions, and it's just the setting off of one shot after another, and you're just getting all of these great kills in. Just from careful planning, and that's exactly what this is. It's fantastic. It's very satisfying.
It is. This is totally an XCOM moment. This is XCOM 2. I think does a little bit more with stuff like this, with the planning of the and positioning and all that, and then Chimera Squad even more so with the breaches.
Yeah, the breaches were. I think that was the most interesting thing. Chimera Squad like. I was like, it's all right, but that aspect of that game really was new and cool. Like I loved that. That was really cool shit.
So they basically they snipe, and then they start rushing down towards the Pillar of Autumn, and then a dropship flanks them, and they lose a few persons. It's a really gory death. One Marine gets hit in the legs with a plasma beam from the dropship, and the legs are just gone. And the top, it says the top half of the Marine flies forward and lands on his own intestine.
It's funny because there have been so many little moments like that. It's like most of this book is that like PG-13 colorful first person shooter sci-fi action thing, and every now and then Dietz just wants to go, war is hell, and here's why.
You get some full on, the opening of Saving Private Ryan.
Yes.
You get like, or even it's like, it almost reminds me of what is it, the end of Day of the Dead, when the guy is getting pulled apart. And it's, oh my God, that scene is still in my head. He's getting
full massacre.
He's getting pulled apart and he's screaming. And as they're pulling his head off, like the stuff is all still attached. So he's screaming and they're pulling his head off. And the pitch of his scream goes up because they're stretching out his vocal cord it's like, oh. Anyway,
the detail that goes into
on these kills.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of.
And there are a lot of little moments like that where it's just viciously gross. And then they go right back to the lasers and. It's crazy.
It's like, imagine a G.I. Joe cartoon and like G.I. Joe and Cobra is fighting and they're just shooting lasers at each other. And like a couple Cobra robots blow up. It's no real people are getting hit. And then like suddenly they're firing. And suddenly like Shipwreck is like, come on, guys, let's get him. And then like a Cobra laser hits him at the waist and just like bisects him. And he like falls apart. Imagine that.
And that's a little bit
what you're getting. The sudden whiplash.
Gruesome, man. It really is. And you're like, wait, what the fuck?
I don't know why I picked Shipwreck as the one that had to die, but
well, I mean, no one likes Shipwreck, so it's understandable.
So there's this dropship, and it's almost like Deus Ex Machina out of the dropship because the snipers turn around and fire on the dropship, and it's like the author William Dietz writes like, well, fuck, I guess they hit a grenade or something because the grenade blows up inside the dropship and it hits a line like a fuel line, and the whole ship blows up. And I know I'm being like pithy about it, but that's pretty much what fucking happens. It's like oh, okay. Anyway, they continue on.
Like, well, moving
on. So, and then there's it's close to a double beat, but not really, is this next scene between Keyes and Silva. But it's almost like from the opposite direction. And we actually hear a little bit more about Silva's point of view as to why he specifically doesn't like Master Chief.
Right. And first things first, basically Keyes lets Silva know we're sending Master Chief and Cortana to go and find this control.
Yeah, Matt, they're going to go secure Halo, basically.
They are going to secure Halo and make sure we can take advantage of that super weapon, or at very least stop Covenant from being able to use it. So he's telling them that, and Silva basically makes the argument of like, is he really the best person for this job?
Shouldn't it be a human?
Right. Or, a submarine. Basically, it's just like you said, it's an extension of what he had said to, at least, to be fair, to Master Chief's face. It's an extension of the idea that Chief isn't going to be the one to win all this.
What's funny is, and this is just a side note in case anybody else has the confusion that I did. Most likely people knew, but I was confused as to why. So Major Silva and Captain Keyes, I was like, well, isn't a major a higher rank than a captain? And then it was like, in military, in ground forces, in the army, major outranks captain, but in the Navy, captain is a higher rank than major is. It's a higher equivalent rank.
Right.
It's a colonel. It's the equivalent of a colonel in the.
It'd be like a full bird colonel. Basically.
So just in case anyone else was confused for a moment and had to look it up, I know that you probably knew what was going on there, Phil, but I was just like, Keyes is a captain and Silva's a major. What's going on here? And be like, oh yeah, it's because he's Navy and he's Marines and it's one of these.
But but the thing is that it also, when you're dealing with two different forces, in the same situation, that shit depends too. But whatever the case, and clearly Keyes is
but then Keyes quickly says, like, I'm going to need you to do like a lot of this figuring this shit out because you're the grounds guy. Like
right. So, Keyes isn't going to come in and tell Silva how to handle the Marines.
Exactly.
But Master Chief is clearly under Keyes' jurisdiction.
Exactly.
So, and Silva basically says to him, "We got a bunch of Marines here who'd be happy to do this for you." And Keyes is like,
"No, I think Johnny Boy over there can handle it." I like the fact though that Silva basically repeats what he said to Master Chief earlier. He says that to Keyes, and then he goes into additional detail. And that bit of detail is he tells the story from the book Fall of Reach, where a few ODSTs that he knew were baited into a fight with John. And he says it was like 24 years ago or something like that.
Yep.
And he's like, John killed two of them. And he's like, it doesn't make that to me, that doesn't make him a hero. It makes him a murderer. I was like, okay, so now I understand. Like Silva was like a second lieutenant at the time. Probably knew these guys.
Those are probably a couple
of his buddies. So he was very aware of the incident, even though there was like the was it ODI or whatever, the intelligence service tried to keep a lid on it. There's no way that they could have kept a super tight lid on it.
Well, even then it was like the idea is that there were
rumors.
I remember that. Yeah.
So suddenly a lot of things start to fall into place as to why Silva's like, I don't fucking trust this guy.
It was a very cool use of a scene that I'd almost forgotten about from the first book. It was just another example of Master Chief. Like, to be fair, it was an interesting
it was the
section because it had
it was the first scene.
It was Master Chief going, are these enemies or not? Because they're on my side, but they're harassing me and they're trying to kill me. So it was an interesting scene for that, but just another scene in the grand scheme of that book. And I think Dietz uses it beautifully, expands on it really, really well. Very cool stuff.
It's a nice payoff between two books of something really, in the grand scheme of things, minor, as you said. So I was a fan of that.
Definitely.
And basically, this section, there's like a little point of view change or like a time jump. It just ends with Silva just saying, "Here's all my grievances," and it says, "Thanks for hearing me out." Like, this is all. I think this is all bullshit. And thanks. And he was like, he also knew, and then it changes to Keyes' point of view, and he's like, "Yeah, Silva's wrong, but like I understand where he's coming from."
And he even says, he's like, "Look, if all we had was the Marines, I know you guys could get it done. I'm not saying that you people can't get it done. I'm sure of that, but Chief's got a bunch of advantages, and basically he's kind of, I don't know how much of this is a cop out, or I don't know how much of this to believe, but his excuse is basically like, look, this is going to free up the Hell Jumpers to do some other shit for us, and I'd rather have all of your guys over here doing this thing and my one guy doing this. And I mean, it seems sincere enough and smart, strategically smart. But it's interesting. It's very interesting.
So Keyes basically reaffirms to Silva, like, you can handle other things. My decision stands. And Silva's like, okay, sir. Yes, sir. We'll support the chief in Cortana.
And he makes a point of saying, look, I just because I'm not in the best of moods over this guy doesn't mean that we won't support him. He makes it clear that he's not going to be like Keyes' fucking ensign and turn on him at the wrong moment. Like, that's, at least that's what he says now.
We get a brief scene after that with Danny Zuko and Kaneki hiding out in a control room inside of, basically within Halo. Basically they're setting a trap for Chief. And Zuka is basically doing his little finger tappy thing, just kind of like waiting for Chief to come.
His Mr. Burns moment.
And then we jump back over to McKay and her squad. This is kind of like a moment where, like, okay, well, they took the ship, they took the Pillar of Autumn, and they got a lot of good stuff, but it actually might not necessarily be enough, because there's Lieutenant Oros is basically saying, honestly, a lot of stuff didn't survive the crash. So they got a lot of loot, but it might just be, the stuff that they scavenged might, it's still probably not going to be. It's not. They're not flush with gear at this point. So Foehammer is dropping off Mr. Chief and some Marines to get it done.
And here's the line. Now, here's the thing. We are now on our way to the Silent Cartographer, which is the site that the Covenant, basically, it pinpoints the location of the control room for Halo. And this is where I hear the music in my head, and I see it, because when I first got an Xbox, I think I was a freshman in college, and I got my first Xbox, and there was, I would always buy official Xbox magazine because it always came with a disc full of demos. And the first one I ever got, because I could afford to get an Xbox, but not a game to go with it. But I could afford, the $8 or $9 to buy an Xbox magazine, which had like 7 amazing demos on it. And one of them was Halo and Time Splitters 2. And like, it was exactly what you wanted, especially for me, who was like learning to use 2 thumbsticks, and like one of them's your head and the other one's your legs. Oh God. I remember learning that and being like, oh, I might not be able to do this. I had a genuine moment of panic of like, what did I just sink all this money into? This?
Oh, and the controller is this big. It's
right. Oh, the brick.
It's the size of your head.
I loved that thing. Everyone hated that thing. I loved it.
It was a big boy.
It was a big, heavy boy, and maybe that's why I loved it, because I'm a big heavy boy.
I looked at the Xbox controller and I saw myself in it.
And I saw myself in it. Yes, absolutely. Parallel, you, me, same. And and so this is what, and the demo for Halo was the Silent Cartographer mission. And so I hear da 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 da, and all of a sudden in comes Foehammer. Marine said, "I didn't know you made house calls, Foehammer." The pilot chuckled, "You know our motto, we deliver." And that is straight out of the game, word for word, beat for beat. I can hear it in my head. I've heard it 1,000 times. Because I probably played that level a million times. Yeah, because
you just had the Xbox and the demo, and you...
That's it. And eventually I found a used copy of Morrowind and failed a couple of classes.
And then time passed.
And then time passed. I have no recollection of what really went down.
It reminds me of, what was it, Danny from the Game Grumps talking about how... he lost like a couple years to Morrowind.
Right. That's how it felt.
You just get high and play Morrowind.
Man, because that game was cruel in like, you had to walk all over the place. And if you wanted to beat that game, there was like this section, all these, I don't remember all the details, but there were like these villages, and you had to go from one village to the other, and there was no fast travel. You didn't have a horse. You didn't have shit. You just had to walk through these dark desert areas until you found the next village you had to be in, and it took forever. So yeah, that one was that game was so fucking good.
I honestly, it's been so long since I played Morrowind. I
don't think we can go back to Morrowind after Skyrim.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
especially after you know what? And have you? I need to. I booted up Skyrim the other day, and that opening, God, it takes forever. I need to install a fast start mod or something like that.
Yeah, you can skip past it.
Good Lord, it is just a drag.
Well, I mean, I remember playing it for the first time, and it was so exciting, and you're like, holy fucking shit. But then, years later. Yeah. But I don't think we could go back to Morrowind for the same reason that we can't go back to like old games like System Shock.
Can't go back to System Shock. Can't go back to Daggerfall.
No, can't go back to Daggerfall. Can't go back to TIE Fighter. Like we are not equipped for that. You mean to tell me that even if I use a joypad to play this game, I'm still going to need the entire keyboard on top of everything else? Are you shitting me? We are very spoiled with how streamlined video games are these days. Back in those days, like, you needed to know that the end parentheses button was your.
Well, you had period, which was match speed, for targeted ship, and then I'm trying to remember all the shortcuts because there was all of the shield and power and like the energy. Meters,
and you had to swap.
Back and forth.
Take the get off of the shield for a second so you can speed up. And our you kids don't fucking remember this. They were cardboard cutouts that would like go over your keyboard. All keyboards basically the same.
You'd put it over your keyboard and it had the shortcuts on it.
Yeah, it had them written out for you so you could look down and it would say, here's your bomb, or whatever. And like, oh my God, it was so in depth. It was insane. It was insane.
Well, but to be honest, though, people were asking what games have you spent more than 500 hours in, and I have to say, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, and X-Wing Alliance, I spent all more than 500 hours in.
Did you play Star Wars Squadron?
I haven't yet. No. I think I have it.
That one looks good. I keep meaning to try that one out.
Anyhow, the Silent Cartographer.
Silent Cartographer. We get a warthog brought in, and the level, guys. Master Chief hops in, leads a bunch of Marines, and we get another big fight sequence.
Big old fight sequence. They basically go up one direction, and they on the Warthog, and they mow down all the Covenant soldiers, but then the Covenant locks the front door. So Master Chief's like, all right, we're gonna have to go around the back door, and there's a back door. So he basically the Warthog drives around. And the Warthog stays and is just like providing covering fire. And Master Chief goes in alone through like this back area. And this is where Danny Zuko has laid a trap for Master Chief.
Yes.
And there's a couple hunters. And grunts down there.
The perfect combination.
It's hilarious though because it resolves a lot faster than it does in the game, because in the game you have to fight the two hunters, but in this one of the hunters is accidentally killed by a grunt.
Oh, I love this. This is so dumb and good. It is so stupid. Yeah, hold on. I'm going to find this because this is so dumb and I love it. Basically, the idea is that all the grunts are waiting and somebody, because the grunts, they're so stupid and they're so numerous that they're trained by the Covenant that when in doubt, shoot. Like, that is literally their order. And what is it that makes him shoot?
It's just like the hunters start fighting Master Chief, and they're like, we don't know what to do, so they just start shooting at Master Chief. But the hunters are in the way.
Yeah, and one of them just gets a lucky fucking shot
right between the armor.
Yeah, just fucking King John's this guy, takes him the fuck out, and literally Yap-Yap's over there going, oh Jesus.
God, no. Oh, jeez.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
So, yeah, one of the hunters is, let's see, the hunter was in the line of fire. So basically, Zuka is knocked out because one of the hunters basically runs past Zuka and knocks him down to the floor. So he's out of the fight. And
they even say, and I love this, like then, as if the melee weren't confusing enough, the second hunter charged in. It sounds like the author. This is all the author, and it sounds like the author is like telling you, like, so you're not going to believe this shit. The second hunter charged in, bumped into the elite, and sent him spinning to the cold metal floor.
So, listen up, guys. You got these grunts. You got these fucking grunts. They're all up against. They're all in the back, and they don't know what to do because there's a bunch of hunters. And this hunter who named Linglin is just like, well,
yeah. Oh, that's right.
They gave this guy a name, right. Linglin. Just fires. He just fires, and he aces one of the hunters. Just lucky shot right through the armor.
Takes him out. It's hilarious. And here's the thing. This is great because Kevin and I have spent this entire episode talking about how so much of these fight scenes, they start to blend together outside of the occasional moment of just graphic gore. And this is a great example of like actually
taking a scene and twisting it into something fun, entertaining, and interesting rather than just a straight up combat encounter.
Yeah, it's like, who cares if that's not how it went in the game? What do you want to? It's like he shot him some more. He kept shooting him. And then the hunter fell down. Boom, boom.
So
like so much.
And
better.
then it basically YAYAP says, Master Chief fights off the other hunter, and then it cuts back to YAYAP's point of view. No doubt stunned by the enormity of his error and terrified regarding the potential consequences, Linglin was still backing away when the bulky armor human raised his weapon and fired. YAYAP felt Linglin's blood spray the side of his face as he tripped.
It's a wrap on Linglin.
And it's just like that scene from Sin City, where the girl and the blood just sprays in her face and she doesn't.
It just stands there and her hair kind of like drifts.
So it's just like the blood spray just goes over YAYAP's face.
Yeah. YAYAP's falling over his feet, and then Zamami, Danny Zuko, grabs him basically, I like to imagine, grabs him by the scruff of his neck and like drags him away and says, the battle's over, we must live to fight another. And YAYAP is like, cool, that sounds awesome.
What's amazing is Zuka and YAYAP have kind of like, they've basically been turned into, it's like Dr. Claw and his cat.
That's exactly what they've become. I'll get you next time, Gadget.
I'll get you next time, Master Chief. I can't do that voice.
Oh, God. Can't do the voice. God. Wow. That's what we get for trying to be accurate here. Yeah, but that's exactly what it is. Like, they just get their asses handed to them, and they just has this, like, all he needs is, like, to, like, twist a knob, and all of a sudden, like, a Zuko-mobile just pops out of nowhere, and they scream off into the night.
He's either a Claw or he's a Cobra Commander.
Right.
Which I'm not going to try to do the Cobra Commander voice right now.
No.
Because I think that would kill me.
Well, it's just the other side of it, isn't
it's
it?
The higher pitch doing the screechy.
Oh my God. So, and we're wrapping this thing up. The fight's over. Cortana and Master Chief are talking about the next step. They're going to shut down the security systems in the area. And so basically they've still got to find the silent cartographer and get the map to the control room. And Cortana asks him if he has a plan. And he says, yes, when we get there, I'm going to kill every single Covenant soldier I can find. So, which is not quite as good as the...
not quite as good as the just follow the trail of bodies line, but...
Right, not as good, but I mean, tried.
Yeah, if Halo happened in the 80s, if there was a Halo movie in the 80s, it would have been directed by Paul Verhoeven, and Master Chief would have been played by Arnold.
right, exactly.
I for one miss Paul Verhoeven doing action movies, gory action movies. Yeah. I mean, God, you got to.
Well, I mean, every time I'm reading this, at least once every 15 minutes, I think of Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers, RoboCop. That's because unfortunately, Master Chief is a cop. He's a cop.
He is. He wants to be a good cop, but he's a cop. He's a cop. Yeah.
So, we're gonna keep going on the Flood. We have yet to.
We've yet to run into
the Flood. I assume that's going to be the climax of the book. Is the Flood?
It can't be far away. I imagine that the next section.
When does the Flood, the level with the Flood happen?
It's about halfway through. Like the Flood is a major obstacle in the game. So I feel like if this section 3 was called section 3, section 3 is called the Silent Cartographer. I think section 4 is going to be the beginning of our Flood moments, and I don't mean the epic "They Might Be Giants" album. People.
Hey now, They Might Be Giants.
I've seen them live five
times. Nice.
5 times. I don't mess around with my love for the Giants.
They are.
So what are you thinking so far, Kevin?
Obviously good book. I don't like it nearly as much as The Fall of Reach.
Mm-hmm. Kind
of hard to compare the two. Their Fall of Reach was very much new material. Nyland got to play around a lot with stuff, whereas Dietz has to stick within a relatively rigid structure with just adding some stuff. But I wish Dietz did more like the battle we just talked about. Just spice them up a little bit, make them a little bit more interesting. Don't be afraid to. Like, that's the thing about Halo is when the first time or when I played it recently and I'm playing Halo and I see the grunts, right? And they're just like going, ah, like it's fucking hilarious. Like there is a humor to Halo that that I feel like could be represented more.
And he definitely remembers
in this scene. There's definitely like some humor. And I know it's like you have to walk a fine line to make sure that you don't make it too funny because you don't want it to be a farce because it's easy to move past it in the game. But I think if the book was 100% farcical, as farcical in some of these scenes as the game is, then it would have a stronger impact in the book.
And I think that's why YAYAP is actually a really good character.
YAYAP really gives us that grunt, grunt bullshit.
He's funny, but he's not cracking jokes.
Not cracking wise.
He's not. But he's just a silly, cowardly kind of character that is fun to keep track of and I laugh at a lot. So yeah, it's an interesting
YAYAP
one.
lives.
It's very interesting. YAYAP lives, people. Love it. Fucking love it.
That'll do it for tonight's episode. If you can, go ahead and give us a 5-star rating on Apple iTunes.
Please.
Also, go ahead and give us a 5-star. I know the plurality of you listen to us on Spotify. Spotify now allows for star ratings on podcasts.
Please.
So go ahead, give us 5 stars on Spotify. We would really appreciate it. Share us on your social media, Twitter, Facebook. Heck, go ahead and post us on LinkedIn if you're feeling bold and want to scare off, job recruiters from your profile.
Absolutely. Tell the world that you don't need their fucking
Tell the world
jobs.
you don't need their job. You listen to two aging geeks talk about books online, video game books.
Precisely.
We read them so you don't have to.
Yep. There it is.
Anyway, that'll do it for tonight's episode, and take care, everyone.
Bye.